Chapter 9. Scylla and Charybdis. Now the ship had to sail between two cliffs where white water raged. That looked dangerous enough, but Odysseus knew the real dangers, thanks to Circe. On the left-hand side gaped the terrible whirlpool Charybdis, and in a high cave on the right-hand cliff dwelled a six-headed monster named Scylla. Each of her snake-like heads swung from a long and scaly neck. It was her delight to snatch sailors off the decks of ships with her long pointed teeth. Steer the ship to the left and be swallowed down by Charybdis, or steer to the right and be devoured by Scylla. Odysseus knew he had to spare as many men as possible, so he ordered the men along the right-hand cliff. The men obeyed gladly, for while they could plainly see the foam churning around the monster of the whirlpool, they had never heard of Scylla, the dreadful sea monster. While the sailors stared in terror at the wild circling of the whirlpool's throat, the 6 heads of Scylla sprang from her dark cave. 6 of the crew were seized and hauled up into the air, screaming for their captain to save them. But the monster's jaws soon crushed the men's cries, and the ship shot through the straits, past the whirlpool, and into the open sea. Odysseus and his crew wept at the loss of the comrades, their only comfort the bitter thought that they would all have been drowned had they sought to pass Charybdis. That night they reached an island where Helios, the sun god, kept his sacred cattle. They stopped to rest, but Odysseus warned the men, "Circe told me to avoid this island. If we stop here, we must not eat the sacred cattle of the sun god." That night, while Odysseus was sleeping, Eurylochus and the hungry crew killed 2 of the sacred cattle, roasted them, and feasted on the beach. Helios, the sun god, blazed with anger. He shouted, "Great Zeus, these sailors have killed and eaten my holy cattle. Punish them, or I'll go down to Hades and shine only for the dead." Zeus smiled. "Stay in the blue sky, sun god. I'll smash their ships to atoms." He raised one finger, and the mast of ship fell like a great tree. Zeus hurled his thunderbolt, and the ship's back broke. Its crew sank like a handful of pebbles. Only Odysseus survived. He balanced on a single plank as he was carried on the raging currents back to Charybdis, the terrible whirlpool. Suddenly, a wave flung him high into the air. He reached out and grabbed a bending branch hanging over the whirlpool. He clung to it like a bat and looked down into the long hollow throat of Charybdis. He grasped in the terror of death. Suddenly, the whirlpool spat out the ship's mast. It shot upward like a spear. Odysseus tracked it and leapt onto the mast as it fell back into the sea, well clear of the deadly whirlpool. He climbed on top of the mast and looked around. All of his friends were gone. Sighing deeply, he paddled with his strong hands away from danger toward new perils.